The ancient Egyptian noble Pesa was vizier in the reigns of Seti I and Ramesses II during the 19th dynasty. He would later also become high priest of Amun family. Pesa was the son of Nebneteru-Tenri, who was high priest of Amun, and Merita, who was chief of the harem of Amun. His maternal grandparents are named in his tomb as Ani and Naya, who apparently came from Memphis. In Pesa's tomb, a brother Tasha, steward in the Temple of Mart, is mentioned. Life. Pesa was part of the close entourage of Seti I's son, the then Prince Ramesses, and a hereditary prince and count. Pesa held many titles and honors throughout his life. The autobiographical text in Pesa's tomb tells us that Menmarata, i.e., Seti I, elevated Pesa to the rank of first companion of the palace, and later promoted him to be chief chamberlain of the Lord of both lands and high priest of great of magic. Eventually Seti I appointed Pesa to be city governor and vizier. Pesa received the tribute of the foreign lands for his king, and he was sent throughout Egypt to calculate the revenue. When Ramesses II took the throne, he reappointed Pesa as chief chamberlain of the Lord of both lands, high priest of great of magic and vizier. Among his major works was the construction of the tomb of Seti I in the Valley of the Kings. Pesa held an array of other titles as well according to inscriptions on statues and monuments. He was a dignitary and judge, mouth of Nekhen, prophet of Mart, seal-bearer of the king of Upper and Lower Egypt, superintendent of every work of the king, chief of secrets of the hieroglyphs, etc. Pesa is last attested as vizier in year 21 of Ramesses II, and he may have held this office during the reigns of Seti I and Ramesses II for over 25 years. Eventually Ramesses II appointed Pesa as high priest of Amun in Thebes. A statue of Pesa giving his title as high priest was found in the Karnak Hachet. The statue is now in the Cairo Museum. Pesa is said to be a noble and count, the high priest of Amun, and the superintendent of prophets of all gods. A shatter for the high priest Pesa is in the University College, London collection. Monuments and other attestations. Pesa is known from many monuments and from statuary. His tomb is described below. A stamped brick can be found on the Global Egyptian Museum site. The text reads, "Monuments naming Pesa come from all over Egypt. There are a handful of items for which the provenance is unknown. For instance, a grey granite statue holding a stela belongs to Pesa, as does a black granite squatting statue now in the British Museum. Wilbur reports seeing a statue of Pesa at Tel Roba. For other objects we do know where they were from, and some of these are outlined below. Pyramus Oador lintel shows Pesa adoring King Ramesses II. Pesa is given the titles hereditary noble and count, God's father, sem-priest, city governor and vizier. A statue showing Pesa holding a stela, now in the Louvre. Figures of Werned Hekau, Sekhmet, Ptah, and neither deities, included on the statue. This statue dates to the time that Pesa was vizier. Several other titles are included. An amulet in the shape of a stela was found in Tanis, but originally came from Pyramesses. The vizier is shown adoring King Ramesses II. Memphis and Middle Egypt. A statue with Ptah from the Temple of Ptah in Memphis is now in the Cairo Museum. Besides the title of vizier, Pesa is also said to be the ruler with the bat scepter in the mansion of Sekhmet, superintendent of all treasures of the king, eyes of the king in the entire land, who brings contentment to the two lands for his master, ears of the king in his palace, and several more titles. Pesa's parents are mentioned. Nebneteru-Tenri is said to be high priest of Amun in southern Heliopolis and sem-priest in the temple of Ptah. His mother Merita is said to be of Hatupta. An ivory pen case from Abydos, now in the Liverpool Museum, is inscribed for the vizier Pesa, Medamud and Eastern Thebes. 3 statues of Pesa come from this area. All 3 depict the vizier Pesa. Seated statue from Medamud, now in the British Museum. A black granite block statue from the Karnak cachette, now in the Cairo Museum. A block statue from the Karnak cachette, now in the Cairo Museum. Western Thebes, excluding Deir el-Medina. 4 statues of Pesa were found in this area. 3 came from Deir el-Bahari and the 4th one is thought to come from somewhere in Thebes. Large statue from the Mentuhotep temple in Deir el-Bahari. Lesser statue from the Mentuhotep temple in Deir el-Bahari, now in the British Museum. A double statue of Pesa and his mother from Deir el-Bahari, now in the Cairo Museum. A statue of Pesa likely from Thebes, now in the Glyptothek in Copenhagen. In Western Thebes, several pieces of graffito are known mentioning Pesa. 2 pieces of rock graffito depict Ramesses II before the goddess Hathor, and mention the Vizier Pesa. Graffito in Tomb 93, the tomb of Khenamun from the reign of Amenhotep II, mentions Pesa. Graffito in Tomb 311, the tomb of Khatiate treasurer from the 11th dynasty, mentions a visit of Pesa who went to see the works of his forefather, Khati. A votive stela from Western Thebes shows Pesa and his mother Merita adoring Wennefer, and a stela from Thebes, now in Copenhagen, show Pesa and his father Nebneteru Tenri before Hathor. This stela was dedicated by a servant in the place of truth. Deir el-Medina. Pesa is well attested in Deir el-Medina. About 10 stelae are known, often showing Pesa with King Ramesses II before different deities. 2 of the stelae show Pesa with the tomb scribe Ramos, who was the main scribe in Deir el-Medina. Further items from Deir el-Medina include statuary, lintels, cornice fragments, bases and finally letters between Pesa and the scribes. There is a letter from the scribe Ramos mentioning 2 other scribes named Hi and Aa. A letter from the scribe in Ushenu recording how the wages for the people working on the tombs was received and delivered. A letter from the scribe Mose mentions an inspection by the granary chief Kirif. The scribe Nobri writes to Pesa to inform him that the pharaoh's village is in excellent order. Upper Egypt. A chapel of Pesa is located in West Silsila in the Hormheb-Spios. Pesa is given the titles noble and count, judge and dignitary, mouth of Nekhen, prophet of Martin city governor and vizier. He is also said to be the superintendent of prophets of all the gods in Upper and Lower Egypt. Tomb. He was buried in a TT 106, located in the Sheikh Abdel Kurna, opposite Luxor, in Egypt. The exterior facade of the tomb includes the courtoucher of Ramesses II. Scenes include Pesa and his mother Merita as mummies in a canopic shrine with its jars being libated by his brother Tisha. Several pillars in the hall are decorated. Pesa is shown before Amenhotep I and Ahmose Nefertari. On the same pillar Pesa's brother Tisha is depicted again offering before Pesa and his mother Merita. Another pillar depicts Pesa and his parents worshipping the gods. There are scenes before Osiris and Mart, his parents before Wennefer, and Pesa participating in a valley festival praising Re-and-Amun. The texts include a hymn to Osiris, the Song of the Harper, a biographical text and praise of King Ramesses II. Funerary objects include 2 canopic jars, which are now in the Cairo Museum. One of the jars shows Selkatum Dumutif, the other Isis and Kaaba Sanuf. A shutter for Pesa is now in the collection in Berlin, while 3 other shutters are in the collection of University College in London.